What is distinct about consulting style presentations? How are they different from other types of business presentations and why? This is the topic that I'm going to talk about today. So welcome to another coffee break or tea break, as in my case today, on my channel Firm Learning. My name is Heinrich, and on my channel I want to help you to become successful in the first years of your career. So this week has been quite special and unique for me. So this is for sure. And if you are a follower of my Instagram, you know why. Because indeed I became father this week. My wife and I, we are filled with thankfulness, though the week has been quite exhaustive. So if I look a bit tired or you hear some baby noises in the background, now you know why this is the case. But let's get to the meat of today's video, and this is to learn about what's special, what's unique about these consulting style presentations that I talk so often about on my channel, why they are the way they are and why they're different from other presentation styles. And indeed, if you want to learn more about slide writing, about creating presentations in the style of leading consulting firms, check out the playlist that I have on this topic on my channel. I will link it somewhere above here. And if you're really serious to learn all the ins and outs of how large consulting firms like McKinsey, BCG or Bain create their slide presentations, I have a full end-to-end multi-hour course on that topic. Check out the link in the video description to it. There are over 10,000 students that took the course already with lots of reviews, so have a look whether this might be something that might be of interest to you as well. And today's video was actually inspired by many of your comments. So whenever I created one of these videos about slide writing in the past, many of you told me, well, Heinrich, aren't these slides far too full? Why is there so much text on these pages? Is this really a great way of designing, layouting slides if you actually intend to present them in the end? So this is what I want to address today. So let's do that by looking into different business types of presentations. And I like to distinguish three different styles of presentations. For sure you might be able to come up with more different ones, but these from my perspective are probably the most important, most relevant ones. And the first style is the style that I like to call the Steve Jobs style. These big keynote presentations, as you often find them for B2C product introductions, where people are standing on a huge stage presenting to a large audience, for instance, about a new product that is being launched, that is being introduced to the market. So what is distinct about these presentations? Well, often there are only a couple of pictures on the slides, maybe only a couple of words. It's really for a large stage. And what's really specific here is that these presentations are intended to be presented. They absolutely require that somebody stands in front of the screen, in front of the big canvas, and gives some explanations, provides some soundtrack to the slides, explains what is really shown here. Or in other words, if you would just send around the slide deck without anybody explaining it, probably in most cases, for most people, it would be quite difficult to really understand all the details about what this is supposed to be all about. So whenever I get comments of people saying to me that, oh, the presentations that I use, they have too much text, they're not clean, not minimal enough, I'd assume that probably people have this style in their mind. Of course, the Steve Jobs style has also become quite well known, quite well studied. So people assume that this is also the style how presentations in businesses should be conducted. But this is not the style that I'm talking about on my channel. And indeed, this is also not the way how consulting firms, at least in most cases, prepare their slide presentations. So let's contrast this with a second use case of presentations. And I often like to think about this as informal meetings. So imagine yourself preparing a one-on-one with your team lead, or maybe an informal session with some of your colleagues where you want to do a brainstorming, just bounce back some ideas, prepare a couple of thoughts as a discussion basis. And here, of course, your objective is just to quickly create a short document without you needing lots of time to create it, that enables you to have a good and fruitful discussion with your team. So an important characteristic of this style of business presentations is that there's no need to reuse these slides. These slides are really just for usually one or two interactions where you discuss topics. There's no need to have this really ready for a larger audience. And indeed, one comment that often people say is, well, Heinrich, do you really need to invest that much time into every single presentation that you do? Do you always need to create presentations in the style that meet these really high standards of slide writing, these high standards of presentations, how large consulting firms like McKinsey, BCG or Bain do it? And here my answer would be, well, no, of course not. Of course, this style is absolutely valid. If you just quickly want to bounce back a couple of ideas, just have a meeting and interaction with your team. Don't waste too much time on perfect layout, on perfect communication on the slides. Keep it short, keep it simple, make it just in the way that enables you to have this discussion that you do want to have. So if this is clear to you, then you might ask yourself, well then what is this style? What is this consulting style of creating presentations? How does this now differ from the other ones? And indeed, these presentations are often more formal ones. You create them for more formal audiences, for instance, senior management or board level members of a company. These are presentations that you create to report on the progress of your project. And indeed, what's probably also very interesting is that these presentations are often not even presented. So often in these meetings, they're not even projected to a wall, to a screen, but people just get a handout of the document that then they have in front of you. And indeed, what also frequently happens is that at least then after the meeting, these presentations are being sent around the organization. People just forward them to other people, and then other people read these documents who were not sitting in the original meeting where maybe the document was initially presented. And indeed, I very well remember an instance where I was working for a company, and at this company a couple of years ago, like 2 or 3 years ago, BCG, Boston Consulting Group, made a project with them. And as a final result of this project, there was now a document that Boston Consulting Group created. This was also in the style of such a big PowerPoint presentation. And until today, this document was still being referenced and sent around and called just the BCG document. And from this anecdote alone, there are some really important learnings. So the first is that these documents, again, are not necessarily intended to be presented. It's important that people can understand every message of these documents if they just read it for themselves. So every single slide, every single page in such a document needs to be self-explanatory, needs to speak for itself. And this, of course, requires a higher level of detail, often a higher level of text, more text on the slides in order for these presentations to stand for themselves. Next is the fact that your reputation as a consulting firm, but also if you work in-house as a project lead for a big corporate, your reputation as the one that creates these documents is very much linked to the quality of this document, right? So because these documents can have a very high shelf life, if there are any errors in there, any inconsistencies, any imprecise statements, it will be known that this was the document created by BCG or by you. And years later, potentially people still think about this, look at this, will have this in their mind. Another important consideration is that, of course, the composition of teams changes over time. So if a document is looked at maybe a year from now, in most cases, the consulting firm that created that will not be at the company anymore. Or maybe also the employees that work together with the consultants to create this document, maybe they move to a new job, to a new employer, to a new company. So there might not even be somebody who can be asked, well, what was done at the time, what really happened, what numbers exactly did you look at? And again, this is just one more reason why it's so important to really create these documents at the high standards that I try to teach you here on my videos on this channel, or also in my course. Again, if you do want to check out the full course that I have on this topic, check out the link in the video description. So I do hope that this video cleared up some confusions on when exactly this style of creating presentations is to be used, when also it is not necessary, not required to put that much effort into these presentations, and also especially why it is not to be confused with the Steve Jobs style, keynote style of creating presentations, but why consulting firms usually create their presentations in a bit of a different style, and why this, of course, is not only relevant and important for consulting firms, but for you as well if you work in corporate, in banking, or in any other career where you are in a position to frequently create presentations for C-level, senior management type of audiences that you are talking to. So if you have any questions about that, please leave me a comment in the comment section. You know that I do my very best to answer every single comment that you write, and yes, your comments also help me with the YouTube algorithm. And indeed, if you took any value out of this video at all, please hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm, you know the drill, and also subscribe to my channel to stay up to date on all my content. And you can also follow me on my Instagram, my handle is Firm Learning. I also have a mailing list and other educational offerings. Just check out the video description for more details on that. And now I just also want to take a moment to say thank you to all the members of From Learning. You're really helping me a lot. Thanks so much. And if you want to become a member as well, just hit the join button next to the subscribe button to learn about all the perks that you would be getting if you join From Learning as a member. So thanks so much. Good weekend to all of you. I release new videos every single Saturday. So see you again next Saturday. All the best to you. Heinrich here from Learning. Cheers.